Hello, Raven fans, Oriole fans. Thank you very much for joining us here on the Ravori Sports Podcast for fans like me. Today, we're doing our special series interviews here right around the Super Bowl. Like and subscribe to all of our social media content. So definitely check us out. RavoriSports.company.site if you want Ravens and Orioles merchandise here as well. So definitely check that out. Also, too, on our website, Genesis Notary Services /Facebook.com. That is our notary business. We're going to go ahead and get all that squared away. If you live in the Shenandoah Valley area, we'll go ahead and get that going for you. You need notary services. We'll stamp your documents with care. See Charles Harris, Legal Shield. Definitely go to Harris Legal Shield on LinkedIn and Facebook to go ahead and get that squared away. All right. Let's not waste any more time. Thank you for joining us here, everybody, today. And we have our very special guest. You know how people get on camera and media and say that they've been friends or they've known each other or whatever a long time and all that. You know, that's just phony stuff a lot of times. Not today. We've known this guy here in media for 30-some years, all the way back to our days when we were freshmen at Baltimore City College. Long time ago. So let's go. And my brother Keith Henry here. We're going to talk a little bit today about sports media. How's it going today? 30 years in the media. We didn't even want to say it out loud there or off camera. How long it's been?
Only by the grace of God, Charles. Yeah. Only by the grace of God. That's how that works.
That's my mom's favorite scripture. Do all things through Christ that strengthens me, that wakes me up every day. You know, a little paraphrase at the end there, but I know, like every day, you know, you feel like that every day is a gift. You know, you get to be after a while. I hear you. All right, Keith. So I wanted to talk to you. We're going to start doing some more interviews on the channel. I don't know how often you watch the channel here. And I did want to talk to you about, let's start a little bit about the Ravens, what we just saw in the regular season here. I know you used to follow with the Afro. You used to be the Ravens writer for the Afro-American. The comment I had was game of inches, right? No other explanation. You know, like the movie Any Given Sunday with Jamie Foxx and LL and Al Pacino. Every break of the game, every inch, every foot, fight for the end. I think that's all that happened this year, right at the end, right?
Well. And when you get to the playoffs, it's the game of it's about taking care of the football. If you don't take care of the football, you will not win. And when the Ravens turned the ball over 3 times, and the Bills did not, that pretty much sent the Ravens fishing, because in the playoffs you have to take care of the football. You can't fumble it. You can't mess it up. You know the conditions, the weather conditions over there. You know you have to find ways to take care of the football. And the Ravens did not do the job. Buffalo did. They didn't turn the ball over. They ran us over time and time again. And Josh Allen was better than Jackson last week, and that's why they're in Kansas City, and the Ravens are home, wishing they were.
I'm not as sure that Josh Allen was better than Lamar per se, but mistake-free, right? No turnovers, cleaner. They didn't really run. I mean, you look at the stats, like it would tell you, okay, well, we would have won the game, but no turnovers on Buffalo's side, didn't give it away. You can't have this many turnovers and win, like you said. That's not going to work. Mark Andrews, a lot of bad stuff happened to him, death threats, a lot of people, a lot of fools out there.
It's not right. It's not right for them to do that at all. Even though I was a little upset about it, but that don't mean you threaten someone's life because of it. That's classless. And the fans that do that, they're classless. They're terrible.
I'm in total agreement on that.
Like I said on my social media, you come back when you can take care of the football. And I'll see y'all, and I'll see you in August, September. You know,
what do you think about him not? Where are you on him not talking to the media? I'd like to hear your take on it. A situation like that. There's some.
To be honest, I'm not surprised about that because you had a chance to catch the ball, and unfortunately, it didn't work out for him. And then when he turned the ball over earlier, that didn't help either. So that combined, and just how he felt about that stuff, he didn't want to come into that limelight and talk about it right away because he might have. Because I can't say why myself because I don't know him that well, but you put yourself in his shoes and you make the mistakes that he makes. It's gonna be hard to come out to the media and explain, well, I didn't do this because of this and that. And whatever you say during that time, they may make a meme out of you. They will crucify you, and he already know they're gonna crucify him anyway because of the mistakes. Now imagine saying something on top of it that might not be what you want to say, or something you might regret. You might say something you might regret.
Yeah.
So I think that's the reason why he stepped back, and I think that I wasn't surprised, and I think that was wise of him. He wanted to get himself together and say what he wanted to say, and he said it a couple days ago. I mean, it's what it is. He made the mistake. You gotta learn from it. You gotta move on. You gotta use that as some sort of strength or something to get yourself together for next season. Because I guarantee you that's what he's doing. That's what he's going to do until next. Get himself together. Those players are going to be in his head forever. Not to mention the rest of ours, as far as the fans are concerned, but it's like three times as tough for Mark, and even for quarterback Jackson, his mistakes. That's going to play in his head a lot too. So they're going to use it as strength and as fuel to get themselves back, and hopefully get themselves back to that spot and overcome it.
Okay. So, yeah, I'm kind of both ways on that as well. I think I understand media members that say, well, you shouldn't talk to the media, that you should face the music, whatever. But like I kept thinking about how like when Barkley in the NBA Finals a long time ago, you know how much he likes to talk. After the 93 Finals, he just couldn't bring himself to do it. There are cases where it's just too much. I think that's what it is. I mean, we're still dealing with human beings and everything. So I'll agree with that. What can you say anyway? Yeah, I think you made a great point there. Going forward, John Harbaugh is going to be back next season. I don't know what else you do as I don't really see a move to be made like out there that they can say whatever. I think you just run it back and try again. Do you see a move to be made or anything that they can do to go ahead and change other than the one I keep getting on social media is just fire John Harbaugh or whatever? I mean, other than that,
I'm getting those same messages too to fire John Harbaugh. But if you're going to do that, who will you replace him with? you gotta have a solution to those things too. Not just they fire Harbaugh and go la 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 and go on with your life, but if you suggest to fire Harbaugh, come up with somebody to replace him. That's gonna help. That's gonna run kind of the same plays and same system as with Jackson as those guys, because it'll be hard to change everything when you get a new coach. It's gonna be hard for the players to understand what needs to be done. As far as changing the offense, changing the defense, because when a new coach means there's going to be some type of change, and some of them may not like it. So why not stay with the same coach in the same system? And it's not Harbaugh's fault. It wasn't. I'm sorry. Sorry to tell the fans. It is not Harbaugh's fault. The players do what they do, and the coaches do what they do. So it was on the players. The players committed 3 turnovers, not the coach. So
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Harbaugh needs to stay. Period. So you come up with somebody else that will help them.
I kind of agree. Last year, I felt more that was bad coaching in the AFC Championship game. I think he got outmaneuvered by Andy Reid and Spagnuolo, and I just think that was the case. I don't think that was the case this year, as much as some people.
KC had a great plan too last year against Jackson, and they executed it. Yeah. That's why they're the champions, and we're not.
Yeah, absolutely. That's absolutely right. One last thing here. I'm kind of thinking that the John Harbaugh succession plan is Zach Orr at some point. I think his contract is coming up, and I think he'll probably extend for another 2-3 years, get a mandate, whatever. I think he's going to stick around at least as long as Lamar is playing the way he's playing, and then kind of see it as Zach Orr. Do you see it playing out like that, possibly like where Zach Orr eventually is the guy to take over at some point?
I don't know yet. Zach Orr. I had some doubts about him earlier in the season because his defense was not handling business, but then knowing that they had to adjust to what he's doing, and it took them a while to get going. So once they got going, they understood what Orr was asking. They understood the system. They got things right, and they made a run toward the playoffs. But Zach Orr succeeding Harbaugh as a coach, too early to tell for me. Give him another couple of years, and we'll come back to that point.
But do you think that's the plan, or at least in pencil? So, yeah. You don't think so? Okay. All right.
I don't think so yet. Give it at least another year or two, and if things continue to improve, like say they do win a Super Bowl, then something could be in the Ravens' ears, and it could be a reality. But I say give it a couple of years, and the word here is patience. And as fans, we're not all that patient. At least I'm not as patient, but I can understand from their side of things to what's going on and what system they're trying to run and things like that. But have to be patient in this. Have to be patient. You got stuff like that. You might have to play the long game.
I hear you. All right, so let's move to your beloved alma mater, what you've been doing at all these years at Coppin State. What's going on right now? HBCU, a lot of changes in HBCU, a lot of more recognition for the coaches and everything. I know, tongue in cheek, how much you like Juan Dixon there.
Everybody, the audience is. I'm gonna have to be a little.
Yeah, the audience isn't going to catch that. That was a
Juan
joke. I
Dixon and
know.
I
Yeah,
didn't exactly get along as
yeah,
much,
yeah.
and I will kind of leave it at that.
Yeah. I didn't.
But
We don't have to
at,
go there, but yeah, I was just kidding. I know how you actually.
but the
Yeah.
new but the new coach right now, it's gonna take him a little while to get things going. Anyway, Coach Stewart,
And let's talk about
former
Larry
Copper
Stewart.
Knight.
Yeah, let's talk about Larry Stewart. Larry Stewart was there when we were there, right? When
Yes.
Coppin was it? Yeah, that was when you actually graduated from Coppin. I actually went to a different school after that. But I can say, is this a job that nobody can do at Coppin State to actually win? 3-17. Here's a guy played in the NBA, had a good career as a player, worked with Fang Mitchell. Is it possible at Coppin? Because this is some of the things that Deion Sanders was talking about, which HBCUs, all the challenges they have to actually have any success. Women are doing better, I see there, but men, rough guy.
When, women are doing a little better, but I'll talk about them later. But as for as for the men, it's going to take a couple of years for Coach Stewart to get his guys in there and to get his system running. So I would say 4 years. Again, it's a patience thing with running the program, and especially with the new things going on and the NIL things. It's going to take a little while to get his get things going in his direction. So it may take about another 2-3 years, I would say, and to get his players in, get his system in, and get things going. So it's not like he's going to be favored to win the MEAC, and they weren't favored to win the. They are not favored to win the MEAC. They were picked close, either next to last to finish that in the MEAC. But and plus right now he's had a few injuries on the squad right now that that's kind of hampering the team and what's going on. We had a couple folks one guy hurt at Howard a couple weeks ago during that game, and even today I wasn't able to make it to the Morgan game, even though the men came up short against Morgan. But injuries are wreaking havoc with his squad right now, and sometimes you gotta go with what you have that will try to help you win. But it's going to be a while on the men's side. It's going to be a little while. But
I'm not sure how doable it is at Coppin, honestly, as much as I would like to see it. You and I were there at the height of it when how hot was the campus when they actually won that game in the tournament against Texas, right? Against South Carolina, right? Almost won the second game. It was electric. And it's hard, man, you got to play all these road games. You don't have the money. Even more now with the NIL, it's more pronounced.
And that nasty portal, the portal plays into it too. As much as we might not like to admit that, but the portal plays into it too. It's like it depends on the person and how comfortable they are with the squad and whether they get playing time or not. There's a variety of reasons why that folk will want to go into the portal after this, or they might not want to go to the portal. And it makes the job of a coach that much harder right now, even with NIL or some part of the lack of it. It's making the coach's job very, very tough, and I can empathize with that. I'm trying to get that word correct.
Will that ever be a thing there where they can get some of the NIL? I don't know. I know Coppin really doesn't have, to my knowledge, any real famous, wealthy, to my knowledge.
And Coppin not the only one. It's like the MEAC, and if you're not in a Power Four conference or high middle or one of those high middle, like top 10 conference, NIL is going to be very tough for you to get because Coppin's a small school. No, in a conference of small schools, means you don't generate as much money as you would like. No, if let's say team has like $1 million worth of NIL, you got spread among everybody, and we think that's for the year with like 12 to 15 players. It's, to be honest, is not that much that they're getting. So it's hard. It's hard if you're not in a Power Four school.
Also, too, what's happening, and and you didn't say it, but like, let's say Larry Stewart has what's happening now has a player who's an outstanding player, 25, 30 points a game. He can't keep him anymore, right? He wants to go now to what these bigger schools are doing. They're not taking freshmen in our case. They're going to Maryland. I'm just using that for example. And then they could pay him whatever they want to pay him, and he can't. Yeah, he's out the door right there. So a lot of what these larger schools are doing, they're taking a lot of these mid-major guys and just plucking them and putting them in the best guys, and then leaving them the rest of the guys. Okay, now you go figure it out with the rest of your squad. Not everybody, like maybe like Michigan State, I saw today, like more traditional, or there's a couple schools, Clemson in football, kind of not really, but even those cases
I could say some of it depends on the relationship the coach has with the kid. If he has a good enough relationship with the kid, chances are he stays for about 2-3 years, maybe all 4. If it's not that good a relationship after 1 year, you're out of there, and you can't do much about that. And even with that, you have to create an environment in which players want to be a part of that team. And sometimes folks have that personality that they can do that. Like on the women's team, head coach Jermaine Woods, he creates an environment in which the ladies want to be a part of that, want to play, want to be a part of that program, and he makes it exciting for them. He makes it fun for them to want to play. So chances are some of them will not want to leave, will not want to use the portal. Some of them will want to stay with the 3 or 4 years in order to graduate and to create that program. There's even one that played for Coach Woods for the full 4 years, and she's a part of this staff right now, and and she's the graduate assistant right now for Coppin. Her name is Mozzie Staples. It was a great relationship between player and coach, to which now she wants to come on and coach, and she's inspired to coach help the girls. So sometimes you don't have relationships like that that will impact a program. And
I think this is the biggest time for women's ball I can ever remember, Keith. Look, and I was going to ask you about the Woods, Coach Woods there, winning record there. Last year they had the largest crowd they ever had when they had LSU come in. I can't remember a time where a Coppin game had that type of attendance. There's definitely an excitement there. that's never been there before for women's basketball and Coppin basketball in general. What's the difference? Why are we seeing him have more success than it is on the men's side?
Coach
Outside of
Woods
just the relationships, like you just mentioned.
The number one thing is the relationship he has with his kids. And number two, he's not afraid to play the tough teams and to try to ask the teams to come to Coppin and play them. Like this year, he asked Arizona State to come in, play him, and they beat Arizona State. And that would something like that would impact him in the long run as far as recruiting people and try to give hope to a program that hasn't done too much in years, and they want to compete in the MEAC. And even today, they scored the last 7 points of the game against Morgan to beat them at Hill Fieldhouse this afternoon. And imagine winning. If you're winning, that helps too. And they're 12-9 right now. 12-9 overall, 3-2 in the MEAC, and they're in the right there, top three, top four in the conference right now, trying to compete with the Norfolk States and the Howards, trying to get into the NCAA tournament. You gotta be able to get the people that can compete, and he's doing that right now, and the close relationship with the athletic director trying to help him further the program. I mean, things are going along pretty well with women's basketball right now, and the key is the relationships and making things work behind the scenes. And it's tough as a coach to make things work behind the scenes, but in order to have a successful program, you gotta find a way to run it behind the scenes and in front. You have to do it in order to compete in this conference.
Have you met Angel Reese?
Indirectly.
I know she was indirect. Like you haven't. I mean, not know her, but I mean, have you met her? Because I know she was there when LSU played last year.
I mean, I don't have a personal relationship with her, but I've known her family. There was a young lady that played for Coppin State named Christy Webb. She played at Coppin years ago, and she's in the family with Angel. So I know them, but I don't know Angel that well.
Yeah. That's kind of like the transition I want to make to what I want to talk about with you as well. Like you see Angel Reese in the WNBA blowing up more than ever. You're seeing a real shift. What's going on in media in general? Because you definitely came up the traditional way, right? Get a job at a paper, do an internship, everything. I did all those things. I actually didn't have a career like you. Like I said, you've been at it like for a long time. I actually worked at the Afro-American Baltimore Tile, all that fun stuff. Like where are we with that? Like right now in the sports media landscape, how does it look to you?
I can't say it was tough to begin the beginnings, and I like to talk about how I started. At Coppin, I was upset because the women didn't get enough coverage in the Coppin newspaper. So I went down to the place and I complained. And the editor said, "Why don't you write? Why don't you do something about it? Why don't you go write?" I'm like, okay. And then the adventure began.
I know that's always been your thing, like women's sports. I know you cover a lot of the volleyball games and things like that. Definitely check it out if you haven't heard out there. do play-by-play at a Cop State baseball game. I have many times at Joe Cannon and all that other fun stuff. But we're doing this on YouTube. I have several platforms here, Twitter and all that other stuff going on. But is there any pushback from the old media? I'm kind of getting that. Even like reaching out, trying to have this discussion with a lot of them. It's some are embracing it, good. You see it like on the highest level, the Stephen A. Smith, where he's doing his own podcast, doing his own Shannon Sharp, doing his own thing there. And then you got some that are like, even like reaching out to some of them, you can't do it. I've always been frustrated with the Afro in particular in the Baltimore Times. They're not, where's your social media presence? Where's your, where is that with them? And so do you think a lot of these big institutions, CNN, do you think a lot of them will survive, or where are we going exactly? Where do you think is going to happen?
I think it will depend on the individual paper or media thing. It's all about the money, I would say, with them, as far as maintaining people and hiring and firing people. It always comes down to, do we have the money to maintain the crew and things like that. Like for me, for the Afro, I've been freelancing for those guys for a very long time. The times that stuff I've written didn't make it, or stuff I've written, it was delayed and things like that. Sometimes I may not know the reason and things like that. Sometimes it'll be on my end. Sometimes it'll be on their end. But it is a bit tough. But if you want to do it as bad as you want to do it, you will find your own way to put your stuff out there via the blogs and things. And even when I went to school at the Broadcasting Institute of Maryland, there I learned to do things on my own and to be aggressive toward certain sports, like the pro sports. Like the Orioles, I still don't want to cover them because it's an everyday thing, sure, but it's not something I have that I would say I have a certain approach to. The Orioles, you have to have a certain approach to cover them. The Ravens, it was a weekly thing, which I didn't mind doing. It's something I think that would help, that I did that helped me in my career. That puts stuff on my resume and things like that. But if it's something you want to do, get out there and do it. What's stopping you? They can only say no. So right. At the end, it's on us. We can't depend on these big boys to help you sometimes, but sometimes you're gonna have to put yourself out there, and that's why you have the YouTube and the Instagram and things like that. And that's my reason for using that. And at one point, I didn't want to use the Twitter, or we call it the X.
Right.
If you want to get yourself out there, you gotta embrace this. You gotta embrace it. As far as social media, you have to embrace it. You have to use it to.
What is it?
Can I go to bed at 9:30?
Yes. She asked me about bedtime. That's my daughter. I think I agree with you, like to that extent. I think it's the first thing you said is the biggest thing. It depends on the person. It depends on the individual. And I don't want you to say or do anything at Afro and mess them up or mess up people. I don't want to do that. I'm not going to roll like that. But I do think like I would like to see some of these because I'd like to see them continue, brother. I really would. I really would like to see some of these institutions really get themselves in a position where where I'm reading your articles every week about the Coppin ladies basketball team and the MEAC and all that stuff, and it's just like just from me, my standpoint, it's a little frustrating. I think they could do a little bit more as well because I'm smashing all platforms, man. Like I'm all here. We're on YouTube. This is going to go up on Rumble, Twitter, Twitch channel. I have my own page, so and that's just really like I don't have a staff really, like a big staff or anything like that. So I like to see it, like especially for a lot of these, because I think there is a lot that I've learned over the years from them, watching them, etc.
And in particular, I love doing the colleges because there's a potential story for every person on the team. And if it interests you enough, you can go ahead and put this story out there. You never know what it could do for you or what it could do for that person you're doing the story about. And that's something I'm going to need to focus on a little more, to be honest, to write about, to not just to write about the person, just to talk. There are people on the team I'd love to talk to about how they get started and what's going on and how it can impact not just their life, but the life of others. So I feel it's about the individual. You want to do something about the individual and make an impact. That's something I'm gonna need to do a lot more.
That kind of goes into my last one of my other points with that. What would you like to do that you haven't done yet? Like you've been on, I know you've been on the beat for 30 years, and I think you said it about especially like the Orioles. It's not something I think nowadays in this space. I'm doing Orioles, Ravens, Terps, in part because not just because it's Baltimore Sports Podcast. It's who I've always been. Feel me? You're doing it. You do things that that's what I would tell him. I do things that's close to your heart. So what's on your heart now that you want to go forward and do that you're looking to do going forward?
Well, to be honest, I've done it. I've coached at City for 27 years. I've helped coach girls volleyball and at one point girls badminton. I wanted to make an impact. I wanted to come back and make an impact on them because they introduced me to sports, and it just coaching folks kind of excites me, and it inspires people, to do something positive in their lives. So I've done that for 27 years before I decided to retire and hang it up. But
why'd you retire? If you can say, how much you can say.
It got to be a little much for me as far as in one day, I would say I'd say in one particular day I worked the morning shift. Then after that, straight to volleyball practice. Then having to go cover a game at Coppin or at Morgan. Then went home. Then came home. It was a full day.
Yeah.
And even those times I've coached games, and then I had to run and cover. I coached a volleyball game, and then I had to run and cover a college game, and I did, and at that point I was doing I was I was a referee. I was doing lines for volleyball, for college volleyball, and I enjoyed it. But when you do that repeatedly, it can kind of wear you down.
Yeah.
You know, and sometimes you don't have time to sit back and chill out. When you get home, you're worn out. You want to get in the shower and go to bed. And it got to a point where I was like, nah, I need to peel back on a couple things.
Yeah.
I've had to do it. See these gray hairs? I've earned it. I'll tell you that.
I've got it. We're the same. We're the same age. I think maybe like a half a year younger than you. I think I'm not quite at the 5-0 yet, but it's getting it. It's coming soon, there, brother. One last thing, and what would you say to young people that want to get into journalism, want to get into media? Do you have what route would you tell them to go? I'm sure you've been asked that question over the years. What route would you tell them to go if they're watching this and they want to be, have do what you've done over the years?
I'll tell you what a couple others have told me. If you have a favorite person to watch on TV, as far as a broadcaster, watch him. Not just watch him, just take notes on what he does and things like that. You don't want to emulate them like direct copy, but you want to understand why he or she does what she does and try to handle business. And relationships are important. Relationships are so important. In this industry, if you burn a bridge, you're done. So, what relationships you make sure it's good. Make sure you learn from them. And make sure that you show the proper respect for the craft. You have to show the proper respect for the craft, whether you write or whether you broadcast. Find someone that can be a mentor. Call them or email them. You got the emails right there. Use it. Talk to them. They're human, just like everybody else. They can get a chance to talk to you. Perfect. If not, may not be that person you want. So don't be afraid to contact them. Just don't.
Would you tell somebody?
Don't be a psycho though.
Would you tell somebody to get a journalism degree nowadays? Is it worth it to go do it?
Wow.
I say I'll answer it first. I say no. If it's a lot of money, I mean, at a Coppin State actually would be a place. I'm not saying that because you went there and I went there. It's inexpensive, right? For the most part. You're not losing your whole life doing it. I don't know how valuable that is. All the skill sets you said, of course, but not. What would you tell a young person? If you had a son, daughter, what would you tell them if they were asking you?
Dude, if somebody inspires you, go after it. Just don't make it a guide. Don't make it over God. You don't want to do that because that will hurt you later on. But contact others that inspire you and let them help you along the way. And also, there's something called the Baltimore Association of Black Journalists. Go to babj.org and they will explain a lot to you about trying to get into journalism. There's gonna be some programs they'll tell you about that will help you along the way. But you got to make it work. You can do everything you want, everything as far as the advice and things like that. But sometimes there's gonna come a point where you got to make it work.
Is it easier or
You
harder?
have to make it work.
Would you say it's
If
easier
you
or
want it
harder?
that bad, you gotta show it. Because there's about 20, 30 people that want to do what you do. You gotta find a way to differentiate yourself from the rest.
Right.
And that's something you gotta think about going to the industry like this. If you're not self-driven, you're in trouble.
Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you, if you're not self-driven, do not get into journalism. Do not. Please don't.
I hear you. All right. How can we find you going forward? Tell everybody out there how we get to find you and keep up with the latest with the cop and with the Eagles and the MEAC and all the other stuff that you do.
The best way, to be honest, and I'm really tough with the Instagrams and things like that. But you can contact me on Instagram at Keith K. Henry 77. You could email me at Keith K. Henry 77 at gmail.com if you have any questions or any leads. I'm looking for a digital content producer position around stationed somewhere around the country. So they can email me at keithkhenry77 at gmail.com if they have a lead or something like that. Or if you want to talk to me, you can do that. That's probably one of the best ways to contact me.
All right. And we're going to link that down in the description box here where you could go ahead and check out Keith, all of his social media platforms, and definitely check it out. And as good of a person as I've ever met, and I'm not just saying that because I'm okay, just as good of a man, a kind man as you're ever going to meet. Especially in journalism, it's hard to find sometimes, man. Some of these guys are slick. You quote scripture when we came on, so that doesn't always work like that. But I want to thank you. Thank you very much for coming on. Anything else you want to tell the people before we get out of here?
Seek God first in whatever you want to do. Seek God first, and let Him lead you. If you don't, it's just pointless in your life. So seek God first before you do anything.
Told y'all. See, I told you. There you go, dropping the wisdom and knowledge right there. Thank you, Keith, for joining us here. Enjoy the Super Bowl, all of you guys. Thank you for joining us here on our special version of the Ravori Sports Podcast here. Like and subscribe to all of our social media platforms. And again, Keith's information will be down in the description box. Thank you, guys.
Before we leave, I do have a question for you. I have a question for you.
Me?
Which would you want to see first? A Ravens Commanders Super Bowl or an Orioles Nationals World Series? Which can we see first? Which would you want to see first? And which will happen first, do you think? And why?
Okay, you're interviewing me now. Well, to be clear, we're airing this. We're airing this after the championship game. So I don't think we're going to get a Ravens Commanders this year. Which would I like to see first? More personally, I don't care if the Commanders and Nats are there, to be totally honest, at all. I don't care. I like to see the Orioles win a World Series. I like to see the Ravens win the Super Bowl. Of the two, I have a little bit more for the Commanders because I grew up rooting for the Redskins. I'm a big fan of Dexter Manley and Charles Mann and Mark Mosley and those guys personally. So it wouldn't be the same as the Ravens, but there's a little bit of that in there as well. But I don't really follow them like in terms of like rooting for them and anything like that. I'm here in the area, so I'm surrounded by a lot of them, but I'm not a particular fan. Of the two, I would say that the Nets, I don't really. They're not one way or the other as far as that goes. Even though baseball is one of my favorite sports.
And I'm going to try to answer my own question. I would love to see a Ravens Commanders Super Bowl because that would drive the DMV Baltimore area nuts. And I want to see that something like that leading up to a possible Super Bowl matchup. Unfortunately, the Ravens didn't handle business the way they're supposed to, so that dream is over for this year. Maybe next year or 2 years, especially Jaden Daniels doing what he's doing.
I never would have thought that the Commanders would be in and the Ravens are eliminated. I'm shocked. Jaden Daniels is the real deal. This guy's the best quarterback in the NFC, I think, for years to come. He's sensational, period. And that's why they're there. There's no other reason. No other reason. They're there.
I'm just wondering if they can take out the Eagles this time. Guess we'll find out when it happens.
All right, brother. All right. Well, thank you very much, sir. And again, since my outro was interrupted with a question again, definitely check Keith out on all of his social media platforms as well, especially on Instagram. Listen to him do play-by-play at a baseball game. It's outstanding. You got to definitely check it out. Thank you very much for joining us, and you enjoy the Super Bowl, and have a good day.
You too. Thanks a lot.